Chapter 930, Former Organization. In Si Zangwill. Upon hearing the name, all the red gloves present fell silent. Not a single one spoke for a moment. Ever since this former bishop betrayed and fled the Church of Evernight had never relaxed its pursuit of him. Archbishops and high-ranking deacons who took up high posts had taken turns being responsible for searching for him. They helped each other, often bringing the relevant sealed artifacts everywhere to search for clues about him. But ultimately, they were unable to lock onto Si Zangwill. He slipped away as a result of all kinds of coincidences. His shadow wasn't even noticed. Furthermore, he had caused several major events that killed many Nighthawks. To the Church of Evernight, especially the Nighthawks, he was someone they hated that had also insulted them. Without realizing it, Leonard Mitchell had already clenched his hanging fists as his breathing grew deeper. He soon forced himself to extricate himself from the sudden emotions that emerged within him. He turned his attention to something else. It was no wonder Dwayne Dance was able to meet Si Zangwill on Waypoint Island in the Berserk Sea. It was because the latter's goal was also the southern continent, East Balem. Amidst everyone's silence, Dolly Simone immediately used her spirit body to emit an ethereal voice without any obvious changes. With some coldness, she spoke at a quickened pace. "Where are they meeting?" The numinous episcopate member shook his head blankly. "I don't know." Dolly raised a few more questions, but she didn't get an ideal reply. Finally, she took a step back and cast her eyes at the Red Gloves team captain, Sost. Sost sighed and deliberated over his words before saying, "First, we need to inform this piece of intel to Her Excellency, Goddess's Eye. We shall leave it to her to contact the Holy Cathedral. Si, who has 008 with him, isn't someone a Red Gloves team can handle. Second, we should continue investigating and follow this clue pertaining to Palinc Tassiblius. Let's hope that we can figure out Si Zangwill's motives. With the situation of us not being able to track him or lock onto him, grasping his motives is more important than knowing where he is. Perhaps it can help us set up a trap that he has no choice but to step into. Finally, from now on, everyone is to take note of any coincidences. Regardless of the reason, they are to be reported to me." "Yes, Captain," the Red Glove members replied in unison. Leonard maintained his silence as he turned his head to glance at Dolly Simone. He found that this gatekeeper who addressed herself as a spirit medium was similarly silent. Her gaze was dark. At the same time, he heard Pallas Zorost's slightly aged voice resound in his mind. "Ha ha, from the looks of it, I'll be witnessing a play of running and pursuing. What does old man mean? Is he hinting at something? We just decided to start investigations on Si Zangwill's motives, and it's already known by 008. Leonard looked away and suddenly had an idea. If a person who is already dead was to secretly do the relevant investigation, would he be able to avoid 008's notice? After 2 hours of sleep, Klein rubbed his still throbbing head and slowly got out of bed. Following that, he pulled the bell by the side of the door and waited for an attendant to arrive. Before long, a native deliberately dressed in lone attire, a white shirt and red vest knocked on the door. Klein twisted the handle and opened a tiny gap in the door. He instructed with a hoarse voice, "Send another lunch set to the room. I had my meal too early." At that instant, he already looked like the tanned Enzo. As a gentleman living in a luxurious room with 2 servants, it was impossible for him to personally instruct the attendant at the door. "Yes, sir, a lunch set. Any special requests?" The native attendant took out some paper and a pen and began recording as he asked with a rather strange Lonese accent. Klein used an equally odd Lonese accent. "With braised meat as the main dish, match it with a cup of sparkling wine with ice and lemon." "Do I include 2 servant meals?" the native attendant asked, following the usual procedure. Klein was silent for 2 seconds before saying, "Yes." After ending the conversation, he closed the door and quickly set up a ritual, bringing back Enzo and Ludwell from above the gray fog to the real world. As for creeping Hunger and Word of the Sea, he temporarily left them in the junk pile. One of them was starving, and the other could hardly resist the urge to sing. After Klein controlled the marionettes to clean up his room, a few attendants came to deliver lunch. Soon, The entire room was filled with the sounds of cutlery hitting the plate and a soft chewing sound. After some time, Klein put down his cutlery, picked up his napkin, and wiped his mouth. In satisfaction, he leaned backward and shook his head helplessly. If this continues, I'll really become fat. The two marionettes had already lost the ability to eat, but to conceal that fact, Klein had no choice but to add servant meals. With him unwilling to see food go to waste, he could only try to eat as much as he could. Thankfully, I'm a faceless. Klein covered his mouth as he burped before drinking the last bit of sparkling wine. Only at this moment did he feel like he had recovered. He now had the energy to consider the various details of his trip to Calderon City. The Marauder pathway is truly terrifying. Just a charm created from a worm of time is able to achieve such incredulous effects. As a king of angels, it's obvious how terrifying blasphemer Ammon is. Even an avatar isn't easy to deal with. Thankfully, I didn't put on a brave front. I knew to mimic those with experience and directly fled to the southern continent. The true creator places a great importance on me. He directly got Tail Devourer Ouroboros to rush over. This does have a feeling of traveling across time. The angels on ancient murals are just walking out and standing before me. Thankfully, I was still able to directly end the summoning. Just as Klein thought of this, his expression sank as he discovered a serious problem. Ouroboros is a king of angels from the monster pathway. This also meant that he could directly see the uniqueness about him. He could see the grayish-white fog and see the illusory door formed of spherical lights and the transparent and translucent maggots that formed the spherical lights. What does this actually imply? The angel of fate who has survived since the second epoch should know something, and the true creator probably knows more. Could they be able to tell that I'm the master of the mysterious space above the gray fog? Regardless, the importance they place on me will rise. Klein clenched his right fist and put it to Order or Rose Redemption might take. He felt lucky that, be it Rose Redemption or the Aurora Order, they had yet to lock onto any of the Fool's believers. However, during the chaotic battle outside Bayam, when he was still active as Jayaman Sparrow, he had thrown out the Tinder Glove, which had been corrupted by the true creator, to attempt to attract a saint from the Aurora Order. This might very well have led to the crazy adventurer to enter the suspect list. From the clues extending outward from Jayaman Sparrow, there's Admiral of Stars, Vice Admiral Iceberg, Danitz, and Anderson. All of them will be investigated by the Aurora Order. I have to warn them. Klein slowly exhaled and stood up, prepared to head above the gray fog. From his point of view, the pursuit of Jayaman Sparrow by the military, Church of Storms, Rose School of Thought, and Numinous Episcopate were all different. The true creator's believers were rather crazy and had a king of angels, a leader who was good at prying into the secrets of fate, active in the real world. This way, it didn't matter if Katlia and company were at sea, making it difficult to be locked on. There was still the risk of them being found. Among them, Vice Admiral Iceberg Edwina and the Fog Sea's strongest hunter Anderson weren't people Klein was worried too much about. They knew little, nothing that pointed towards the core problem. Nothing much would happen aside from the need to consider whether the bunch of lunatics of the Aurora Order would employ extreme methods in the interrogation process. West Balem, Northern State, in the Kokawa city ruled by Mason Shea. Danitz, who was chewing on roasted meat, paused suddenly. He heard Mr. Fool pass him the warning from Jayaman Sparrow. Be careful of the Numinous Episcopate. Be careful of the Aurora Order, especially the latter. Pay special attention. Also, warn Anderson Hood as well as Edwina Edwards. Be careful of the Numinous Episcopate. Be careful of the Aurora Order. How many has it been? The military, Church of Storms, Church of Evernight, Rose School of Thought. What did Jayaman Sparrow do? Why has he offended so many factions? Dogshit. Danitz's expression froze before grimacing. He had no idea that the strongest person of the 7 pirate admirals had changed. Opposite him, Anderson put down the knife he used to slice meat, pricked up his brows, and curiously asked, "Have you recalled something?" Danitz secretly took a deep breath and asked after some deliberation, "Have you heard of the Aurora Order?" He wasn't sure if Anderson knew. After all, The Aurora Order was a rather secretive organization in the beginning. Its reputation was later built up in the Lone Kingdom. Anderson chuckled. I'm actually more surprised that you know of them. Did your captain tell you? Without waiting for Danitz to answer, he combed his short hair with his finger and continued. They believe that the Creator is omnipresent. Everything has godhood. They believe that life is nothing but a spiritual journey. As long as one is willing to listen to their preachings, understand, discover, and gather the godhood, they will eventually become angels to transcend reality. Such an idea doesn't sound bad, but that's not the main point. The main point is that they believe in the true Creator. Upon hearing that, Danitz couldn't help but jeer. You know quite a bit, just slightly less than I know. Anderson immediately curled the ends of his mouth and said with a beaming smile, Of course. I once joined an organization in Intis. They hoped to change society, the world, to make the supernatural no longer secret and to be out in the open for everyone to see, so as to become true rulers. They're called the Iron and Blood Cross Order, and they also believe in the true Creator. Danitz's expression froze as cold sweat oozed out of his forehead.